DDG episode 34. I have sat behind this microphone a lot this week. My name is Dave Hunt, and I'm joined by Michael Swick.
How is it going? I got dressed for this. This is the only thing I get dressed for now in quarantine furlough.
Fully dressed or just gym shorts and a hoodie?
No, like a hoodie, jeans, shoes. It's I dress up for the occasion.
I feel privileged.
Yeah, you should.
We are Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly podcast, except for when we produce a lot of content when news is worthy of it. But our numbered episodes release every Thursday morning at 6 a.m. You can get them early on Patreon Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. for the $5 tier, patreon.com/digitaldaysgaming. All of our other social links are in the show notes, so please click on the show notes. And while you're there, please leave us a review if you can. Share the show. Write a written review. Give us a bunch of stars. Give us like 10 stars if you can. Just more people will find it. And you never know, we might have more audiences now lately because we've been trying to do a little bit of diversifying our content even more, specializing it. For tons of you who already listened to the PS5 reveal recap that we did last week, and also while listening to 33. And by the time you're listening to this, in your feed as well is a Destiny special that I recorded with Chandler Wood. If you're watching us live on Twitch, that will be out tomorrow morning. So plenty of content for you to consume. And as always, feedback is appreciated. Suggestions, things that we could do better, things that we could do differently is always appreciated. And again, sharing the show, Facebook, just hit the share button on the page. Anytime we post from the page, hit the share button so more people can see it. Hit retweet on Twitter when we tweet, so more eyes are on it. Even if you only have like 7 followers, maybe one of those followers will want to listen to us, and we would appreciate it.
Oh man, so it was pretty busy last week with everything going on, and this weekend's been pretty busy as well. So I'm glad we did the PlayStation thing. Definitely give us some feedback on the PlayStation recap. We already were planning to do one for the Xbox press conference thing happening in July. But me and Dave were talking about possibly doing one for EA and Ubisoft when they do their eventual press conferences. EA this week, and then Ubisoft, I think, the second week of July.
Yeah, like July 12th, I think is when their event is.
Something like that, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, in the hopper, obviously we've got EA as a possibility. We've got an Xbox event as more than likely a guarantee. The Ubisoft event is a guarantee. So, and anything that we feel worthy, like of the time of, that if it's newsworthy, then we're going to cover it. And hopefully that you guys enjoy it, the extra content that you got. And then it also means that we don't necessarily have to repeat ourselves constantly about what we think about the PS5, or B, go into long in-depth each week. So if you want to know more about the PS5, go listen to the PS5 episode. If you want to hear me nerd out about Destiny with Chandler, go listen to the Destiny episode. If you wanted to hear me cover Division 2 when I did Warlords of New York, go listen to that. And the weekly stuff will be the things that we've always talked about as our goals with DDG, is to talk about news that's relevant enough that if you are listening to this episode, 3 or 4, 5 weeks later, that the conversation is not irrelevant.
Yeah, which is always key for that, just because it's the news moves fast, but we'd like to pick stories that we can at least have a little bit of a conversation on, as opposed to just burning through stories as fast as possible. But let's dive into this week, Dave. So the first story is a response to
directly to you, something you got right Thursday night.
Yes, yeah. There was a lot of confusion coming out of the Sony PS5 reveal, specifically when it comes to Spider-Man Miles Morales. The confusion starts when a Sony Europe rep said that the game was going to be a remaster and expansion sort of deal. So a remaster of the PS4 game plus an expansion pack dedicated to Miles Morales. And that caused all sorts of uproar because in the trailer, there was no indication that it was just a remastered version of the PS4 Spider-Man game, or that it was just an expansion. Insomniac did come out and clarify this, and other sources were able to confirm it, even though Insomniac, said it. So that should be enough confirmation, but enough people double-checked, and it does look like Spider-Man Miles Morales. It isn't a full sequel, but it is a standalone game like Uncharted Lost Legacy or infamous Second Son First Light, which I think infamous Second Son First Light you could play by itself, but Uncharted Lost Legacy was a Uncharted game but it was only about 6 to 8 hours, depending on like how you played it.
Well, Uncharted Lost Legacy was originally planned as single-player DLC for Uncharted 4, and then I think they realized later that it obviously outgrew that, and then it sounds like sales-wise it did well, but we all knew that something like this was more. You talked about it, like Spider-Man 1.5, like the time frame, and then what I mentioned of Insomniac working on the Ratchet and Clank game, like, and then also one of the main reasons that was rumored to be that Sony purchased Insomniac when they did was because of some of the VR tech that they've been working on, which we haven't seen or heard at all of yet, if they are working on VR stuff as well. So like, this is not this studio unfortunately has shown when they are working on multiple projects that some of those projects suffer. Fuse.
Yeah, but that was several years ago at this point.
Right. But in terms of the time since Sony has purchased them and provided them with probably the additional payroll and the funds that they need to produce these now exclusive games to PlayStation, they could not have made a game.
Yeah, it's one of those things where people that know enough about video games would see the holiday 2020 release and made the same conclusions me and you did, where we're like, it's only been 2 years since a game came out. This can't be a full game. So I can see where some of the confusion for people that don't follow games that deeply and don't know how development cycles work. But it's good that they clarified what exactly this is. It's a standalone game, but that doesn't mean it's a standalone full game, because the original Spider-Man game is like 25 to 40 hours if you're going for like everything. And there's no way they could have done that in less than 2 years. Even though they have New York already built, you would imagine that they're doing more for Spider-Man 2.
If it was Spider-Man 2, they would get crucified if it was just continuation of the story in New York, like without a new area or new things, like that. And, like, I haven't gotten through all of it, but I can already tell, like with the little bit of Lost Legacy that I'm playing, is that there's an area that I'm at in the game when I played it months ago that I can already tell that I'm going to be there for a long time.
Yeah. And this is at least going to take advantage of those assets and give us a story for Miles Morales. Especially like Sony, if they were going to make Spider-Man 2 just Miles Morales games, I feel like people would be upset. As much as people are celebrating, I'm happy that there's a Miles game. But if Spider-Man 2 was just a Miles game, that would be kind of weird based on what they built up in the first game for Peter Parker. Well, so this being a 1.5 makes sense.
I think the potential for the sequel to be both of them in the game would be really cool.
Oh, no, I think they will be. There'll be a reason why Peter Parker is not there. It could be him visiting. They talked about different things happening in the world. I mean, the Avengers building is in the first Spider-Man game, so they could easily just be like, oh, Spider-Man's with the Avengers right now. Maybe you tie him into the Square Enix game, and then he's off into the Square Enix game. And then he tells Miles, like, hey, you have to watch New York while I'm gone. That would be cool. I doubt that is what's going to happen, but there's going to be a reason for Peter Parker to like leave.
Yeah, and like someone, Snake in our chat is asking about like a special edition PS5. I don't think that this game is going to warrant attaching it to a special edition console, and I also don't know if they're going to focus too much on special edition consoles at launch. I would expect that if and when we see a Spider-Man 2, like maybe we'll see a true Spider-Man 2, like maybe we'll see a Spider-Man console.
Yeah, and it'd be way too soon for them to do a special edition console, and even then, I don't know if there's much you can do special edition wise outside of just like the PS5 looks very strange. I don't know how creative you can get with that.
Oh, there's already been some Photoshop pictures of a Spider-Man, black and red Spider-Man version of it.
Yeah, and it's really basic, so like I don't know if they can get like super fancy, but though the PS4 had some very lackluster bundles.
Mm-hmm. It was always like the controller that was kind of cool. Like that was always the coolest part was the controller. And I would like to see, it'd be interesting to see what they do with the DualSense color schemes. Because
there's a lot you could do with that.
We've seen obviously when they revealed the PS5, like we've seen the white controller, but we've also unless it was just really dark shadowing, they were also hinting at an all black controller when they were marketing the PS5 reveal event. So I don't know. I would assume that they'll probably made eventually down the line be an all black PS5 or
controllers
I would assume
again eventually. So. Depending on like how far we get past their original launch lineup.
So do you think that this game's going to cost $60?
No, I see that's a tricky thing. So Lost Legacy was a $40 game. I feel like for $40 it would be great for like a smaller experience, but it's a new console. So I could feel like there would be some sort of justification on Sony's part to be like, hey, we have to charge full price for this because it takes so much to develop.
This has been confirmed that it's not going to run on PS4 at all.
Correct. As far as I know, they haven't clarified one way or the other that it's only PS5. Everything that we've seen so far says PS5 only. I haven't seen anything that indicates PS4 because of the way they like positioned everything in the reveal event. So hopefully it takes advantage of all that cool stuff.
I think it sucks that they could not, in terms of controlling a digital only event where they saw that, you know, obviously they watched this and they put this in front of lots of people, maybe put it in front of focus groups. I think it sucks that the confusion that set in after we even recorded our episode that morning, and then Insomniac having to come out and say all this stuff. Like, I think that sucks.
I was almost surprised because I thought Sony's whole thing about like condensing Sony America, Sony Europe, and Sony Japan into like one thing, that's like been their plan for the last
SIE
couple
or
years.
Sony Interactive Entertainment or whatever it is. So.
And yet a rogue head of European business at PlayStation caused this confusion by just like talking off the cuff about like it was Simon Rutter, EVP of Sony Europe Business at Sony Interactive Entertainment. In an interview with The Telegraph, he's like, I guess you could call it an expansion and enhancement to the previous game. There is a substantial Miles Morales component, which is the expansion element, which that caused all the confusion. And you'd think they would have all their messaging like taken care of for post-event, but it looks like they didn't. Which I thought them condensing everything was supposed to prevent stuff from like that happening, because before we would hear issues of like how different each region of Sony is and the different PR companies or the different PR people at Sony would have to react to what another region did in terms of like embargo and stuff. But so that confusion sucked, and then Insomniac then had to do like damage control like the day after, as opposed to just celebrating like them announcing something.
Well, then it kind of caused me to tweet something that, you know, like got a little bit of me in a conversation with a couple people of like, okay, then I'm, you know, like I said, you know, when we recorded Thursday night, the fact that it wasn't called Spider-Man 2 and that I missed that Horizon technically has a 2 in it. The, you know, Horizon, like in the logo, it has a 2 in there. And yeah, I get why they're doing what they're doing. But when you all of a sudden the next day there's confusion about Spider-Man : Miles Morales, and then now you have Horizon. And again, I missed the 2 in there, but it's not super obvious unless you're really looking for it.
And all the marketing says Forbidden West.
Right. So it's technically Horizon : Forbidden West. And the only thing that people are saying is they're saving grace of it and of it being a true sequel is the 2 little dashes in the line below it. Okay, that's fine. I see it now. But with the Miles Morales question, asking the Forbidden West question isn't out of left field either.
Oh, yeah, no, totally. So I could totally, because I kind of missed it too. Like I just assumed it was a sequel because I did the same time math I did with Spider-Man.
They didn't date it.
Yeah. And that's why that was like the thing I pointed to be like, oh, this is a full sequel because it's been 3 years and they didn't date it.
And I'm sorry, but if anybody thinks you're playing this before 2021, you're high.
Yeah, holiday 2021
at the
maybe,
earliest,
because they need a holiday game for next year. This year will be Spider-Man. It will sell like crazy because it's Spider-Man, and then we'll get Horizon as the marquee title next year. And then I don't know what you do other than that until like God of War is announced.
Right, you get another God of War, and then whatever Ben's working on.
Yeah, which would just have.
And then I would think that Sucker Punch has an auxiliary team working on something else already. Like previously, they've been probably working on something for maybe 6 to 10 months already.
Yeah, like a skeleton crew, because usually that's how it works. Is like as you're finishing up one project, you pull people like the artists to work on the next thing. So they're probably already working on their next game. So I'm just glad most of the stuff we saw at the PS5 reveal was stuff that's coming out this year or next year, and I think Pragmata is the only thing that had
Yeah,
like
it was 2022 on it. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean, we all know Hitman will be delayed.
Nah, I can see because it doesn't look that different from the other Hitman. Okay, so after all that, Microsoft came out. They talked a little bit about what games are coming to their platform, but they also built their master list of games that are supporting smart delivery when the Xbox Series X comes out.
This list concerns me.
It concerns me. It's not too bad. They
I guess
said
to
they're
be
going to
fair,
update the list.
these are the only announced ones already. I guess like that's
Yes.
so like that's the big difference.
Yeah. So if you've forgotten what smart delivery is, it's basically if you purchase an Xbox One version of a game that supports smart delivery, you're only gonna have to buy it once. So then when you purchase Xbox Series X, you can play that game on the Xbox Series X as at its best version. So you're not only just using the backwards compatibility, you are using you're getting the Xbox Series X version of that Xbox One game, and vice versa. So if you buy a Series X game, you will then have access to the Xbox One version of that game, and it's linked to your account, so everything just works smooth and transitions very easily. They even mentioned in the article of like, hey, you're going to put your Xbox Series X in your living room, maybe you move your Xbox One to the bedroom. Whichever system you're playing on, you're going to get the best version for that system if they support smart delivery. The list of games that support it as of right now, this list will change over time. I'm sure it's going to get more as EA Play does their thing, Ubisoft does their thing, and then a Microsoft first-party press conference thing later. But the list is as follows: Halo Infinite, Cyberpunk 2077, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Destiny 2, Dirt 5, Scarlet Nexus, Chorus, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, Yakuza Like a Dragon, The Ascent, Call of the Sea, Gears 5, Second Extinction, Metal Hellslayer. So that is the list of games that will support smart delivery as of right now. What concerns you about this list? Just the size right now?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like immediately in my mind, I'm like, "Where's Watch Dogs?" But we don't know when it's coming. So you know, but I mean, like we've always talked about, like the concern of the next gen to the current gen transition, current gen to next gen transition of how this is going to work. And what we're finding now is, like we talked about before, is like it's obvious that Deathloop, can't run on PS4 and Xbox One. So therefore, if it's going to release, it gets a timed exclusive on PS5 because of what the stipulation that Microsoft has said publicly. So now I'm wondering, like, if Watch Dogs can only run on next-gen consoles, which I don't think it can, but if it can, does that mean that it's timed exclusive on PS4 or PS5 just by default?
Potentially, maybe. Kind of hard to tell, but I don't know.
Or some of the other games that they've just literally pushed away, like the Rainbow Six, PvE style game or cooperative game. The I can't even think of it, but the cell shaded Zelda looking game, Gods, that you're like
Gods and Monsters.
Yeah, those are all ones that you're curious about that have like they showed last year at E3. They talked about them, and I guess like my number one concern is, and maybe we'll get the answers on July 12th, is Ubisoft is a huge third party developer and they're not represented yet.
Well, no, they have Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which I think
but I feel like there's a deal with Xbox and Microsoft already in place for that.
Yeah, but I feel like if that's on the list, we'll get the other ones. I just don't think Watch Dogs was ever said it was coming to Xbox Series X or PS5, so they're probably just waiting to do an official announcement for that, just because companies are weird, and even though I think everyone can safely assume those games are coming to PS5 and Xbox Series X, they don't want to say it until the company actually says it. Because there'll be a lame reveal at the event, and this is coming to the next gen consoles, and it's like, no shit. And also, Xbox Series X is backwards compatible, so it's coming no matter what, as opposed to the PS5 where it's a question mark for compatibility.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, this is still good. I'm still surprised that Sony didn't come out with anything related to like a smart delivery competitor, just because Microsoft's like killing it with their customer stuff.
Yeah, 100% that they're killing it with it. But I think that some of the developers are already saying it. Like Bungie's already said, like, it's just going to work.
Cyberpunk said that too.
Yeah, so like I don't know if Sony really has to answer for that in terms of most of the developers will say if it's going to work or not going to work. And then any of their first party stuff is either going to be on PS5 or work on PS4 and then be better on PS5 allegedly. Like we're all in the same boat that Ghost of Tsushima and Last of Us Part 2 are just going to run and look shinier and better on PS5, right?
Yeah, I mean they would have to. I mean, they're Sony first party. Like they would most definitely be shinier, better, just run smoother. But they love branding. Like companies love branding. It's just another checkbox. So when people make those
but doesn't it also confuse the customer? Like look at what it's already kind of doing to Microsoft that we've already slowly seen where it's doing to Microsoft. Like, oh, this is a really cool, like consumer friendly thing that Microsoft's doing of saying, you know, we're not going to annihilate prior gen by only making next gen only games, but then something cool and shiny, Deathloop or Ghostwire, you know, can only run on next gen, and Microsoft's like, nope, sorry, you can't release that on our system for 18 months.
Yeah. I don't know if it's like fully blown into an issue yet. It's going to be a big game that's going to cause that to be an issue. Like if Deathloop comes out and it like sets the world on fire, then it's going to be an issue. But right now, I think most people are just like, Xbox is pro-consumer until games are actually released, and then we'll see how people feel afterwards when a situation like Deathloop comes out and it's like, why the fuck doesn't this?
Or if it, again, not that I want to go back to it, but if it is Rainbow Six Quarantine, or if it is Watch Dogs where they come out, you know, or any of the other stuff that Ubisoft has pushed back of where they go, you know what, this is only going to run on next gen consoles, therefore it's timed exclusive on PS5. Like, yeah, like I'm sorry, Bethesda, they're big, but they're not Ubisoft. They're not Ubisoft big. Their titles don't care. Most of their titles don't carry the weight. Like if the next Doom, which we're not getting anytime soon because we just got a Doom. So it's in a weird spot right now with a lot of these huge, like the huge games are on current gen right now.
Yeah, I would say Elder Scrolls is bigger than Assassin's Creed.
Agreed. So what? Okay, so if they come out. What if
they're secondary games?
Yeah, but what if they come out and say this Elder Scrolls? What are we up to? 7 now? That they
it'd be 6.
The 6 that they teased that image last year at their press conference. Yeah. So if that game has to only be able to run on next gen, right? So is that game 2 years out?
For Bethesda, yeah. Let's say
Or is a game going to be held longer because of Microsoft's stance?
I can see games being held longer just to get out of the way of that. It's going to be one of those things where I have a feeling Microsoft's push for like the first 2 years, they'll be protected, or 18 months. They're going to push back on that. It's going to just be this first 6 months. And then they're just going to be like, hey, we heard you. And now games don't have to run on Xbox One. I think it's just going to be a push for the start. And then they're going to back away from that just because you're right. It is going to cause issues. They're going to miss out on some games as they already potentially have with like Deathloop and Ghostwire. But
I get it. Like I get what they're trying to do, and again, it's, you know, for most of the players like that maybe own a Game Pass, or you know those things, and we're still kind of in that balancing point. Like people have been asking me over the weekend, like, oh, did Thursday's event, you know, lean you more towards PS5? Like it helped, but there's still, and I've said it on Twitter all weekend, like at this time last year. Or I'm sorry, at this time during the Xbox One and the PS4 coming out of their announcement life cycle, the middle of June, we knew price, date, and launch games for both systems, and we don't know any of those three things right now, and nope. It's annoying. Like the rumors
it's frustrating.
The rumors of multiple different SKUs. Now we have the disc and the discless that are gonna, you know, should be substantially different prices, and now there's also potential rumors of 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte, 3 terabyte. You know, like different, you know, like there's like an Amazon UK listing that shows $750, but nobody knows how many terabytes of drive were in there. Like, is the discount of the diskless one going to be more, you know, but have a bigger drive? Like, there's so many, like, all in, like, Chandler even brought it up briefly, either to me on the Destiny Cop podcast or when him and I were just talking. He's like, do I need the new camera to run my VR? Like, there's just so many questions that they left unanswered, and like it's okay like that those questions are there, but they need to start answering these questions, and it can't be August,
which is the next big event, which is Gamescom's digital event.
But you can't price this August 20th and have it come out in 90 days. Like, I don't think that's.
Oh no, it's bad. It's bad business, especially. I keep bringing it up. I sound like a broken record because of the current state of the world, where unemployment is where it's at in North America. They can't just give 90 days. Like, they need to give a price soon.
This needs to be priced in the next 30 days.
Yeah, I think if we go all of July without any sort of update, and I think the retailers are going to push them by just putting up pre-orders, because we've already started to see PlayAsia and Amazon UK putting up like placeholder prices. I think the retailers are going to push them into just confirming a day, and then we'll get into the hell with like how retailers are going to stock the diskless versus the disc version of the system and all that jazz.
Right. And like you even talked about, like, if you're a buyer for any big retailer and you're going to Sony to buy the PlayStation 5, if I'm Sony, I'm pushing you to buy 75% diskless and 25% disked, or making that a stipulation. Yes, obviously the diskless one will be cheaper. But even I had a Twitter conversation back and forth with Kyle. He's a longtime friend of mine for years. And he, like, how much cheaper is it going to be for me to guarantee that I'm buying my games from your store?
Yeah.
Like you're guaranteeing that you're buying the games from the Sony store. Like, that discount should be substantial. And then the storage option should be predominantly better, even though
it's not. And it's not.
Yeah.
I guarantee it's going to be $825 because that's what they pushed during the Cerny thing. It's going to be $825.
Yeah, which, it's weird. Like, and hopefully the user interface has the ease to move stuff back and forth. Like, for me to plug a standard USB drive into this, a USB hard drive into this, because I do not think that you're going to be able to switch out he said that you'll be able to change hard drives, but only when the hard drive manufacturers make one that works.
Yeah, and you can play your PS4 games off a basic external drive.
Yeah.
Or no, you can play them off the basic external drive, but some PS4 games can't be moved to the SSD because it might break them because SSD moves too fast. There's a lot of confusion. You know who wins this retail battle is Microsoft, because they can go to Walmart, Target, Best Buy and be like, you can have the Xbox One games and the Series X games out. It's a war zone. 4th of July is coming up outside of my house if any of those explosions this came through. But Microsoft can go to retailers and be like, you can have the Xbox One games out and the Series X games out, and they're all going to work on our system. And that's going to be a selling point for retailers to carry their product over Sony, who's like, oh, here's the diskless one that we want to sell, and here's the disc.
Yeah, because I just like, I get it. I love the diskless option. I think it's great. But I see a 45-year-old mom buying their kid a console for Christmas, grabbing the diskless console and grabbing a disc out of habit to buy both of them. And then you're going to rely on the clerks to say, no, you can't buy this together. Really?
Where their old managers are going to say, sell as many games as you can with the console because it's a launch, especially because working retail, there's usually like a buy one, get one deal when the console launches, because they want you to buy as many of those launch titles as possible. Because
I love it. Like, again, I don't want people to think that I'm against this diskless version. That's the
version I'm probably going to go with.
This damn podcast is called Digital Days, okay? But I'm telling you, anybody that's looking on a kid's Christmas list that says, I want a PS5, and they go to a store and there's one version that's $700 and one version that's $600 or $550, guess which version the mom's buying?
Yeah. But most kids just want to play Fortnite, so maybe it'll work out in the end. But I'm just wondering, are we going to see more Nintendo Switch situations where you buy an empty case? Like, because a lot of Switch games, it's just an empty case.
I already said the tech that I want to see, and I don't think it's possible, but I would love to see this tech of you buy like, as we said, what do we do? What do you do when, Aunt buys you a PS5 game and you own a diskless PS5? What I would love to see is a hardware key that You insert the hardware key, and it says this has been redeemed. And then when you put the disc in, the disc has the same hardware key in it, and it goes to read it and says this has already been redeemed on a different system. And yes, that does eliminate the used game market, which
GameStop will be dead before that even before this console.
But I'm just saying that's the perfect solution that I would like to see, because what it does is the people like Josh Langford that want discs, they still have their disc and they put it on their shelf and they don't play it, and they can still play their digital version of the game. That's the system that I want.
And then Sony can do what Microsoft did for the 360 and release an HD DVD expansion that you can just plug into the USB port. Then play your discs off that.
That would be the perfect solution, though. Because then when a game goes on sale, because when you're in, this is why the digital version has to be so much cheaper. Is like when you go to stores, you can't buy the Horizon 2 in 3 years later when it's $19.99 on disc. You have to rely on the store, hopefully putting it on sale, the PSN store.
Which is the point,
right? And they probably won't, because it takes them a long time to put things on sale unless they get super aggressive in their digital market. And maybe they will now that they have an exclusive digital console. I can only hope.
Yeah, they won't. But they're doing this so they can just control the market even more.
Yeah.
But now the questions with Microsoft, we've heard from so many different people that the Lockhart is real. Is the Lockhart just going to be a discless Xbox Series X? Or is it actually going to be a little less powerful? So this is going to be one of the most confusing console launches that I can remember.
I still think that and I was thinking about this today, like at the store level, like at a store, like a brick and mortar store, for the PS5 and for the Xbox, I would assume you would see 2 SKUs of whatever it is, 2 terabyte disc, 2 terabyte diskless, 2 different prices. Xbox Series X, 2 terabyte disc, 2 terabyte diskless, 2 different prices. Now the people that are invested in the industry and understand what they're looking at can go to Amazon or go to bestbuy.com or go to target.com and see the 4 terabyte diskless that cost more, that you can order. But I don't think you'll see those SKUs in stores.
Potentially, yeah. All right. So moving on to the next story. This one is actually a quick one. So this is kind of weird. So during I believe it was during PC Game Show, the Guerrilla Collective stuff that happened this weekend, the Forgotten City was announced to be coming a full game by the end of this year. The Forgotten City is originally a mod for Skyrim. So this was made several years ago. It actually, as a mod, has 2.5 million downloads, but it's actually even won Writers Guild awards. This is a very prestigious mod for Skyrim, and it's being made into a standalone full game coming to Xbox One and PC later this year, which this isn't completely out of left field. Mods have been turned into full games. Dota was a mod originally of Warcraft, and then there's Auto Chest, which came out last year, which is a mod of Dota too. So it isn't completely out of left field, a mod being turned into a full game. But I still think it's pretty cool to see something like this that shows you people in the modding community can make stuff that leads to full.
Yeah, I mean the next closest thing that I think we'll have to this in the next year or so will be something out of Dreams, which
I'm fascinated by the potential for that as people continue to.
Or something out of GTA. I could see Rockstar doing but I don't even know if they allow mods in the PC version. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know if they allow them, but there are mods.
Yeah.
Everything gets modded on PC. Yeah, so this is just a cool story of just a Skyrim mod that's being made into a game called The Forgotten City. When you look at the trailer, it looks significantly better than the original mod, but it's been fleshed out. You can still see the trappings of a Elder Scrolls game, or a Bethesda game specifically, in terms of how the dialogue interacts and some of the combat stuff. But yeah, this is just a weird thing to keep an eye on, just because I don't know. It's crazy when you see a mod had 2.5 million downloads, and seeing how big and popular something can become. And now it's going to be a full-blown game.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. I just hope that I don't know who you support financially for doing this mod, but
yeah, I'm guessing they just took it out of engine at this point, and it's just its own thing, but they kept.
Somebody had to build a foundation for this mod, though, that either one, I hope, has a job with them, or two, is somehow being somewhat compensated. Like, I don't even know.
Oh no, yeah, no, this is definitely the mod creators making this. It just, they went from making a mod that they released for free to like, hey, now we're going to charge and make a full game out of this, and maybe potentially have box copies in a store. So this can at least hold over people waiting for Elder Scrolls 6. They can play something not quite in the universe, but definitely has a lot of the things that they like about the Elder Scrolls series. And then the weird announcement, but this only happened because of leaks. Star Wars Squadrons was officially announced on Friday, and the trailer released today. So the reason this is weird is EA Play is Thursday. Today, if you're listening to the download of this show. So you would think they would have the first trailer there, but no, the game got leaked on, I think, the PlayStation Store and the Microsoft Store. So they just went ahead and dropped the trailer today. So this is being developed by Motive, and it is set for release October 2nd for the PS4, Xbox One, PC, VR, for PS4 and PC as well, I believe. Believe that's everything that's going to happen. Yeah. So this is it's a first person squadron game, so it's like dogfights.
Oh, so it's a first person make me hurl game.
Potentially, yes. So it's going to have 5v5 multiplayer like dogfights, and it's also going to have an original story that takes place after the events of Return of the Jedi. So the first trailer was out, very cinematic looking. I think there's little chunks of gameplay in there here and there. But yeah, another Star Wars games. And Motive was the auxiliary studio that was helping all these Star Wars games that got killed by EA. So they're releasing their
all those assets you were working on. Let's
just put them all together. Bizarre though that they didn't want to wait till Thursday to do this.
Maybe they just get it out of the way because it's not, it's not a criticism, but it's a $40 title, so it is a $40 game, which means that I would expect it to be in that 6 to 10 hour campaign at the most, and then multiplayer is the heavy focus. So maybe they just kind of get it out and say, hey, you know what? Let's take it out of the show and let's spend more time talking about or showing something that that we're really gonna push more. Like this will sell just by itself because it's a Star Wars fighter game, like fighter pilot game, which is what it is. Mm-hmm. And which is fine. I don't see the multiplayer having this multiplayer will go two directions. It'll either go the direction of dead, or it'll go the direction of I took 4 months off, or I didn't play this game for 4 or 5 months. I get in there and I just get my ass kicked because I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to happen with most multiplayer games.
No, but there's still a barrier. Like, you can still pick up Call of Duty and you can still get some kills and stuff like that. When people are just vastly superior pilots than you are, like, that's not fun.
Yeah,
when you can be outmaneuvered. Like, it's like the little bit of Warhawk that I played. If you're playing against somebody that's an elite pilot, it's just going to kick your ass.
For sure. Weird thing about this, I don't know if they're waiting to announce it on during EA Play. They didn't mention PS5 or Xbox Series X. I know it comes out October 2nd, but there was no mention of smart delivery or anything like that. Though I know EA is not part of smart delivery. They're doing their own thing, but you'd think that they would say this is coming, unless they are just going to rely on backwards compatibility to be playable on the next gen's consoles. It just seems weird to announce anything this holiday that you don't also slap the PS5 and Xbox Series X logo on just for the hell of it. Because you can. Do you think that's odd that it's not going to be on PS5 or Xbox Series X, or you think they're just holding the announcement for whatever reason?
No, maybe they can't talk about how the VR is going to be on PS5.
So
Like,
they're just not going to even mention it at all.
I mean, if they say, I don't, you know what, I don't even know, because I was gonna say if they say next gen consoles, like, you know, but I think the question will be there. You know, I don't know, like I don't get it. Maybe it'll just run a little bit better, but who knows how long this game's been in development for.
Yeah, but still, it just seems so weird. But you bring up a good point about maybe they didn't want to say it because PSVR comes with, or PSVR is a feature for this game on a PS4, and if it isn't a feature on the PS5, then that kind of breaks Sony's promise from last year saying that the VR will carry over to the PS5, which they haven't really mentioned at all in terms of how backwards compatibility is going to work with PSVR.
Other than Iron Man VR, the words VR haven't come out of their mouth in a long time.
Yeah, so I wonder if there's going to be a little backtracking on PSVR, because you would think they would just at least give a little bit of a nod of like, hey, your VR stuff's going to...
And before anybody comes at me, well, they showed the camera, it's obviously going to be VR. Like, that's for Astrobot.
Yeah, and even then, like... They already said your old VR stuff would work, I believe. So it'd be weird for them to just put the camera and be like, no, this camera's unrelated to that, or don't worry about this camera here. Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's odd. There's going to apparently be more information about this game at EA Play, so maybe we'll get an extended gameplay and they'll mention next-gen consoles, though they probably won't mention it because of the VR stuff, because then Sony will have to release a statement saying like, oh yeah, PSVR, just plug it in and play. You're good to go. Because that kind of breaks everything.
You know what's good about all these digital events from a PR standpoint and a game developers releasing standpoint is that they control when they have to say something versus somebody sticking a microphone in front of their face and hoping that somebody slips up.
Like what happened with Spider-Man Miles Morales?
Yeah. Like, so, I mean,
where they try to control that message and then it
but they didn't try to control the message, but they also didn't have a whole bunch of people like, you know, like typically, like let's go, like, so Spider-Man Miles Morales would have been, I don't know why I have such a hard time saying that, would have been debuted at a press conference, and then after the press conference, it would have maybe been partially playable or behind closed doors with them showing an extended demo that we talk about, blah, 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 blah. The first question out of everybody's mouth would have been, is this attached to the Spider-Man universe? Is this attached to the PS4 version? Like, you know, like that would have been all over the show floor for the next 2 or 3 days versus now that they can, yes, they dropped the ball, but they can control the message a little bit better. EA can control the message a lot better.
You would hope. Well, I don't know. It's just weird, everything. I feel like the companies are doing the best they can with the digital events, but they're still dropping the ball here and there. But we're almost done, I guess. I mean, the indies are handling it really well in terms of explaining their stuff and putting trailers out there.
I tried watching some of that stuff. I mean, I know you like those games, and I don't. It's not that I don't like the games. Like if an indie game somehow has a cool graphic style, like it'll draw my attention. If it has a cool gameplay mechanic, it'll draw my attention. But I mean, I've already ran into those issues of information overload, because even after we recorded our PS5 reveals, and I kind of dogged on the Bridges game. I can't even think of the right name of it now. See, I'm already messing it up. The game that I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna like that much. And then I went. My wife's like, she's like, I really want you to play that. You know, I think that game looked cool. And I went back and watched the trailer. I'm like, I don't even really remember seeing this. Like, it already got smushed. And now I'm like, okay, that game does look interesting. I'm sure I'm messing the name up already because I don't have it in front of me.
Kenta.
Yeah,
that's a
the cell shaded.
Yeah, I know which one.
Yeah, where she's like shooting things out of her wand and stuff. At first I was like, no. And then I watched something, watch a trailer again, and it looks better. Or I catch something I didn't see before, and again, like
Kenna, Bridge of Spirits.
Yes, that one. So, but like you even said, like this would have been something that potentially would have been shown at a press conference, and then hopefully would have been extended demo or playable. Getting your hands on and playing it. That I would have maybe walked away from it like, hey, that's a lot cooler than I thought. And right now, you're not getting that time.
Yeah, though Guerrilla Collective, a lot of those games, if you load up Steam, there are demos to a lot of the games that they announced, which is exactly what you probably need to.
Yeah, for sure.
Get into those.
But I mean, the pacing of the Guerrilla the thing too.
The fact that it's 3 days is kind of crazy. Like I still haven't watched day 3 with the stuff.
I really tried to watch the PC game show because I'm interested in obviously in PC gaming now. The theme and the presentation of that thing like turned me off fast.
I could see that doing that for you. I wasn't a big fan of it. They also had like some audio syncing issues, which kind of took me out of it, but I was able to just look away when the presenters are happening and then watching the trailers. But yeah, the Guerrilla Collective definitely has a bunch of cool stuff, but it's definitely an overload, which I guess this would have still happened during E3 because a lot of the games that we even see at E3 don't get trailers or anything during press conferences. So we're just seeing all of that stuff just bombarded here.
And it's what we wanted, to give the indies the showtime of like, hey, here's the trailer for the game. Here's the developer of the game. Here's the developer of the game playing it live on stream and talking to you about what he's doing and why it's cool. That's fine. But like I hopped in and hopped out of those games, out of those Twitch streams periodically. And I couldn't keep up with where we were at. And the chat was just terrible.
Oh my God, no, don't look at Twitch chat. I was watching it on GameSpot's Twitch channel because their channel tended to be, it was like, there was barely anyone in it. But like when you try to watch the Twitch gaming channel or the IGN channel, it was god awful.
Yeah, I was like, wow, why are you watching this if you hate it so much? Like for me, if I'm not interested in something, I just turn my phone off and set it down or put something else on TV, and then I'll be like, I'll watch the trailer when it releases on YouTube later. It's a
problem that I see on Twitch a lot where it's just people making bad jokes just to get attention.
I'll take our 11 viewers that have a real conversation on Twitch over what I see on those other Twitch chats.
Oh God, yeah. Every time I see a channel like that, I'm just like, man, I'm so glad I'm not popular on Twitch. Because it is just a shit show watching all that go down. But yeah, if you mute the stuff, go for it. The Guerrilla Collective is like interesting to watch. I wish they paced it a little bit better in terms of, because I think it was like an hour each day of just trailers, and then there was like another additional hour. There's maybe like 2 hours every day. I almost wish they would have broken stuff down to like, hey, this is the first person shooter day.
Yeah,
this is the RPG day. Some weird theming.
Release something on YouTube at like 10 o'clock in the morning of like whatever it is, 10 trailers. And here's the trailers for the 10 games that we're going to talk about today. And here's the times that we're going to talk about it. You like the trailer? Come check out the game at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, that would have been...
versus like, all right, let me see what they show next. Oh, that sucks. Like for that viewer, oh, that sucks. They turn their phone off or they turn their Twitch off or to go to watch another stream, and then they miss the game that they would want to have seen.
Yeah. I mean, I put out a list on our Facebook and our Twitter page of just like the 5 games from day one that I liked. And even then, like just grabbing the trailers for each game was kind of a problem because I would have to, there was no like central hub for me to get all the trailers. So I was just having to like search YouTube and find the trailers for the studios and stuff. I was just surprised that like the Guerrilla Collective YouTube page just didn't have all the trailers after the press conference just on their page. Right. Instead, I like hop around or like look up an IGN list of like, here are all the trailers that were announced today. It's like 20 trailers. And it's just like, oh God. There could have been better messaging or format for that stuff. Still enjoyed it, but it's definitely one of those things where this is a learning experience, and I still have doubts E3 is going to happen ever again, or the indie developers maybe will see more traction from this event than they would have if they went to E3 and had a fight for air and space.
Yeah, I would be really curious. Like you said, the demos are available, and like a lot of the demos are shown are available. Like so, like all of a sudden your stream ends, or you're on Guerrilla, you're on day 2, and then all of a sudden you see a couple thousand people download your demo. Like that wouldn't have happened at an E3.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see what they can do in terms of fixing this format, and then see them try this again next year or 6 months from now. Because PAX isn't going to happen, despite PAX saying it's going to happen. And that's another indie showcase thing. Maybe they'll put out another Guerrilla Collective in 6 months and we'll get a little bit more information and better spacing on all the trailers and game demos that they're trying to do. But yeah, that's all I pulled from the news. We'll have some more stuff to talk about later this week as EA gets ready to do their thing.
Yeah. So, and again, if EA is worthy enough of, it presents enough stuff that we think we need to record something, even if it's only like 45 minutes, like we'll still do it. So.
Yep.
All right. What we're planning and watching. I can go first. So, obviously, like the new Destiny season kicked off. It's very much connected to what's coming in September. The expansion is coming in September. With some of that, just briefly, like I said, please just go back and listen to the Chandler and I literally nerd out for like 2 hours about Destiny, going all the way back to 6 years.
I was surprised when I saw like the how long that was.
Yeah.
Like I went to go check, like, are they still going? Oh, they're still going.
Yeah. So it was a blast though, but
yeah.
And Michael didn't have to be involved in the conversation, so he loved it. Mm-hmm. So they announced, like Destiny 2 announced the cross-gen play. PS5 to PS4 can play with each other. It can play group up. Xbox One and Xbox Series X players can group up, and the PC will still be there. And then they teased it. They didn't confirm it, but they're hoping by 2021 to have full cross-play. Which I think would be cool. They did confirm 4K 60 frames per second on next-gen consoles, which is, currently it's at 30 frames per second, 1080p. Some 4K, I think, and depending on if you have a Pro or not. And then, so this season directly tied to, like the darkness is coming and the pyramid ships are here and all that stuff. Destiny still has the same problem it's had almost every single season of the power level grind of increasing it by 50 points is monotonous and continues to have you play older content and which is part of the game and not part of the game. They really need to find a way to make the new content relevant, rewarding, and worthy of your time versus like, okay, go play the new stuff for like 2 or 3 hours. And, even somebody like me that was like, I'm not like maxing my power level out like I used to back in D1 days, but I got, up to the non-pinnacle cap. And then it's like, okay, you did the quest and you're, 1016 power, but all the stuff that you want to do is 1040 plus power. So go back and play some other stuff. Go do your 3 strikes and go do your Crucible matches and go do your public events to get your stuff higher, to then go spend 10, 12, 15, 18 hours doing our regular content to do our new cool stuff. Like they got to figure out a way to balance that. And hopefully they can do that in September. But it also brought this huge, like, away from console AFK farming thing that the community figured out to at a point where I think over 60% of their events were a failed forge, which was because people were AFKing the forge to get materials and rewards.
That sucks.
Yeah. So, but when the player base feels like that they need to, that's quote unquote the most efficient way to level up in your game versus playing your game, I think you have a little bit of a problem.
Definitely.
But yeah, so I mean, again, it's fun playing with the group, doing some stuff, getting, trying to, get your light level up. There's always something kind of, fun about that, as monotonous as it is. Seeing the number increase, as it has been for 6 years in Destiny is always good. And then you and I both played, I still have a hard time saying this game, but Disintegration?
Yes.
Yeah.
Disintegration.
Yeah, so you and I both played Disintegration. It's interesting.
It's a first-person shooter with real-time strategy elements.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more tactical than your average first-person shooter.
I don't think I got as far as you did. So my first question is,
I beat the game.
Okay. My first question is does there come a point in time where I can pick my squad mates?
No, which is odd.
Okay. Because each different squad member has a different ability, right?
Yeah. Each squad member has a different ability. I played it on like the normal difficulty. Maybe in later difficulties they'll let you, but I have to experiment with that. We'll give a full review for this next week. This is just me and Dave giving like impressions of it. But yeah, they're definitely is elements of the game to where like I feel like they didn't go full on with the concept, and I think that held the game back a little bit, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, like programming the 2 or 3 people, or giving orders to the 2 or 3 people that are with you for what they're going to do, using their abilities when the enemies clump up to like the slow, doing the slowness, and then doing like concussion grenades after that, or doing the slowness and doing mortars after that. Like it's great. It's super cool feeling to strategize correctly and kill a whole bunch of things at one time by stacking 2 or 3 things together. Like that's great. The destruction in the game was like super cool, like flying around, like shooting up the houses and and stuff like that, shooting houses, shooting explosive barrels, shooting the environment and changing things. But it definitely it feels like
it lacks complexity that I would have liked to see in terms of its combat.
Yeah, definitely more like power feeling. I'm still early on. I think I'm like 3. I think I got like 3 missions in. I played it live on stream, so if you want to check it out, it should be in our past broadcast. I'm sure we'll get it posted to YouTube hopefully before it goes away. And I had a good time with it. Part of the reason why I stopped playing it is, again, I still have stitches in my thumb. So like my hands, you definitely were using the right stick a lot more in that game than I'm used to, so my right thumb was really hurting. So that's part of the reason why I stopped playing. But I mean, I didn't like dislike what I played. So it's got some potential there. The story delivery is a little weird. I'm still was trying to figure out what was going on. And then the mission structure was very weird as well. So yeah,
the way like you get short cutscenes before every mission. It's like maybe like a 30 seconds to a minute, 2 minutes for cutscenes, and then it drops you off to like kind of a empty hub area, and you talk to your different crew members, which I have to say the crew members in this game are fantastic. I love the personality of all the different crew members that you have. And
the dialogue
then
is
you
great.
Would load into the mission, and then you load into the mission, and then you just go through a mission that has multiple tasks that you take care of throughout it. Like I beat the campaign. It story is probably like 6 hours, maybe a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Especially if you go on a higher difficulty, which I experimented a little bit with some of the difficulty, and it was like the game could be really challenging. So it's not a super long campaign, but I actually enjoyed the campaign a lot. The only reason we're not reviewing it now is the game doesn't come out until the 16th. And it's got a multiplayer. Yeah, it's got a multiplayer. So
he tried to play.
Try that. Yeah, I tried to play. I knew it was a long shot. I when I got the code, I might have missed if they were doing like developer specific review sessions for multiplayer. So before I give a full review for it, me and Dave will go in depth about Disintegration next week, and then we can put a number on it. Just because if it's got multiplayer, we need to give multiplayer a fair shot before grading it. But I did like the campaign a lot. I think the characters are really well written and likable. Just the gameplay just lacked a little bit of depth that I wanted from it. But I'll break that down next week, and then Dave hopefully will be able to get through it, especially knowing that it's not super long, Dave.
Yeah, I didn't like I said, the only reason I stopped was because my hand started hurting. I didn't stop like out of boredom or anything like that. I mean, I had a couple situations where I died, and there's definitely like a replayability to it of like doing a lot more scanning, which you could do a lot better job of scanning, looking for upgrade caches and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's there's a nice loop to it there.
Yeah, and you were expecting to get all your stitches removed and only got half of them removed from your hand.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. So.
Because it's in a terrible spot.
Yeah. Did you play or watch anything else?
I played just a small smidge bit of Beyond Blue. Not very far. I didn't start. Actually, wasn't feeling very well on Sunday when I dedicated time to set aside to play that game, and I think I ate something that just didn't agree with me. And then my son, I watched him play a little bit of Uncharted 1. So he went back and played the first Uncharted, and he's going to play Last of Us. He's actually been streaming it on his Twitch channel. Nobody needs to follow him. He's streaming it on his Twitch channel for his girlfriend in Kentucky.
That's nice.
So they're having a conversation on the phone while she's watching him play. So
yeah, no one needs to watch that.
No, don't. I'm not even going to tell you what it is. Don't do it.
Oh, yeah.
But it's cool. Like I said, I showed her a couple weeks ago when she was here. I showed her the beginning cutscenes to Last of Us. So like then she definitely wanted him to play it. And then I said like, because he plays video games, you know, and he plays a lot of sports games, and I would love for him to get into some of these other games. And this isn't a reason to, because at least now he can engage with his girlfriend in games that have great gameplay and great storytelling. He was complaining about the shooting, and I go, well, you're playing the remastered version of it. It has better shooting. And he's like, what? Yeah. And I watched Artemis Fowl.
I heard that was shit.
Have you read the books?
No, I haven't.
Do you know anything about the story?
No, I know kids or young adults and adults are pissed because they read it as a kid, and apparently this version is awful.
I don't know anything about the books. I didn't know anything going into it. I was actually pretty entertained by it.
Okay.
So to the point of where like my wife's like, I might read the books, you know, like in terms of a teen book like that, my wife can probably sit and read that book like in an afternoon.
Yeah, so, and then she'll be upset by how bad the movie was. Because it seems like if you read the book,
the little bit that I guess there's like 9 books.
Oh. Oof.
And it sounds like a little bit that I saw from my friends on Facebook. I didn't really post anything about it, but it sounds like they took kind of the main storyline from the first book and a lot of the villains from the second book and like mushed them together. So, but in terms of like if they're trying to. The first question I would have, and I don't know the answer to this, is was this ever intended to come out in theaters, or was this only intended for Disney Plus?
No, I think it was, and then they earlier this year said Disney Plus exclusive, probably because they knew it wasn't going to perform well, and then also COVID happened.
Yeah. So if it was initially, produced and designed for Disney Plus, cool. Like I think it hit that purpose of what it was supposed to do. If it was designed to come out in theaters, I don't know, because this thing probably would have got crushed. The only other comparison that I have to something like this is Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. My son read all of those books. Like in middle school and early high school, he would just plow through those books. And so then when this movie came out, he's like, I really want to go see it. I'm like, cool, I'll go see it. I was entertained by it because I don't know the story. He walked out of there like, this was crap. So he's like, they didn't do that right, and they didn't do this right. And then again, the only other comparison, like Ready Player One, in terms of obviously that movie, that there's no way that they could have done that book exactly like they did the movie. I mean, they can't do the movie like the book. Too much licensing, too many challenges. It's just so hard. And my wife and I watched it together, and we're like, okay, that's cool. And if there's another one soon, like I'll probably watch that too.
Yeah. So. It sounds like your son with Percy Jackson had the experience I just recently had with. I read the Harry Potter books and saw the movies, and we're like, man, those movies are bad. They missed this, and this.
And I mean the other little bit, like for whatever reason, my wife and I watched. I think it's happened over the last 2 weeks. We watched Rush Hour 1, 2, and 3.
Is that on anything?
TNT, the TNT app. Like,
oh, okay.
There's still like.
Did they put commercials in there?
I was gonna say there's commercials in those. Yeah, so it's like, but it was just on, and we were working on some stuff. I was on vacation last week from work. I'm back to work this week. My store is open. So like last week was supposed to, like we all know, last week was supposed to be E3. So we had a little bit extra time on our hands, but we got a new roof going on right now. So there's lots of stuff going on in terms of in real life stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. For me, it was marathoning through Disintegration, which I was able to finish like throughout the weekend. A little bit of Overwatch, just because it's my cooldown game, just to relax. And man, so I never really did my tank placements until this season, and I got placed in silver, which is hell because I'm used to being placed in platinum for support. And I hate it in silver because I can't get out, and it's not my fault because I had 4 games in a session where someone quit within the first 5 minutes, and once you lose a teammate, you're screwed. And I know
never get them back.
Nope. You can't win a lot of these team-based objectives because you're down a teammate or two. And I noticed that in bronze and silver, because I get paired with bronze and silver a lot, that people quit a lot, and that's probably why they're in bronze and silver. Because when you quit, you take like a 50-point hit from your ranking, and also you're suspended from the game for like 15 minutes. And I had so many games where people quit within the first 5 minutes, and the games are completely winnable until they quit, to where they just quit because something doesn't go their way, or someone picked their character and they get mad. So I lost a bunch of games, and it wasn't my fault because just people quit, and I'm just like, Jesus, these people will never get out of bronze and silver playing this way. I'm at the point where I might even just stop playing this season and just wait for my placements next season and hope I just get placed higher and away from the hellhole that is bronze and silver tier. Then I'm going to do a review right now for Beyond Blue. The game Dave talked a little bit earlier. I ended up playing this Sunday evening and then Monday afternoon. So Beyond Blue is a game that is made by the people, it's like Eline Media, and they worked with the Planet Earth 2 team, and they put together a game that revolves around a marine biologist named Mirai, who is stationed in a submarine, a single occupant submarine, and she is researching, or her specialty is whales. So you, throughout the game, go on deep dive missions, and you're tracking this whale family, and each mission, each dive, you're doing tasks in order to further your research, and along the way you are scanning all the other creatures and learning about all the different life under the ocean, but specifically trying to learn as much as possible from this family of whales. So the mechanics are really simple. The game is kind of just about relaxing to a certain point, because you're just swimming around. There's no real danger. There's no danger at all to you. There's no fail states. You swim around and you scan pretty much everything you see. And every time you scan something, it adds more information that you can look at and learn about from that creature back at the submarine. So you're just swimming around and following this story, and the game presents the story through some cutscenes that you'll get here and there while you're on the dive. But when you're back on the submarine, you talk to your colleagues and you talk to your sister who's at home, and you learn about the character and the colleagues, their motivations through these phone calls. And you learn about specifically your character, like her past and her family through these calls, and it kind of sheds light to her motivations for being passionate about like this whale family and ocean life. So the game does a really good job with the voice acting and writing to flesh out your character in a short amount of time, while still conveying the story about sea life and trying to educate players as much as it can through a video game. As you're playing, you do unlock like these short 2-minute videos, like actual like documentary videos that explain what you just did on a mission, and also give you background on like some of the technology that they're using, though the game is using like some future tech. So it's basically like they made assumptions on where technology would go in a couple years, and then the videos kind of explain like the current technology they have, and then you kind of just figure things out from there, just like, oh, this is the path they're going on with this technology, this is why they're learning this, and then you kind of see some of that through the gameplay. The story actually was surprisingly compelling for me. I really kind of got attached to the character and the little phone calls that you had to do every mission, and the main story with the whales was like entertaining and informative, and the gameplay is just it's so relaxing. Like, it was just nice to just swim around and have a game that I don't have to worry about timers or objectives. It's just, you see a fish, scan it, it'll give you information. It gives you a bunch of like optional tasks in terms of like, hey, we want to learn everything about this type of dolphin. Find like 12 of these dolphins, scan them, and then we'll build a database for them that you can look at the sub. And you'll get like 3D models of them, and you'll get a little bit of information like text about them as well, which will then unlock potential videos down the line. So really enjoyed it. The music's really good when you're in the ocean. It's like relaxing, calm, chill music. And when you're on the sub, they have just like a good playlist of like indie bands in the sub, which they add songs as you play the game, which was a nice touch. So I ended up writing a couple of the bands. I hope some of them are real bands. I'm pretty sure most of them are real bands, but there was a couple that I was like, if this isn't a real band, I'm going to be sad. So it was just a relaxing game that definitely has a little bit of sadness and heartbreaking elements to it. But overall, it was like worthwhile, sort of educational.
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, do you feel like you learned anything?
Yeah, the videos are really short, but they're focused to where I feel like I'm learning a little bit from these videos. I know there's like maybe like between 10 and 20 videos, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they're 2 minutes long just kind of made it easier to just like watch them as opposed to sitting through like huge chunks of like nature documentaries. So I enjoyed it. There are some of those usual issues with like frame rate got a little choppy here and there, but other than that, it was really hard for them to mess up like the controls because again, you're just swimming around and scanning with the L1 and R1, and they didn't really have any other issues outside of frame rate towards the end of the game when you kind of get towards like volcanic areas under the water that the frame rate kind of chugged a little bit. But that was like the only flaw that I had with the game, or that came up with the game. Otherwise, like I was fully invested in the story. I almost wish it wasn't as short because I feel like towards the end of the game, it just kind of ends suddenly, and then you kind of just get like a summary video of like what happens to the characters and like in just like a quick cutscene of just like, oh, and then this happened. It's like
a TV show that they found out like they had planned like 12 episodes and they found out, okay, you get 2 left.
yeah, it kind of felt like that. And that was like the only thing that like bummed me out because like the mission, I want to say the story was like maybe 4 hours, 4 hours long. So by the time I got to the end, I was just like, oh, I thought there would have been more there.
Do you know how much it cost off the top of your head? I don't have it in front of me.
No, I'll have to look that up. I can look that up real quick.
Yeah, because I mean, like we saw this, both you and I saw this game at E3, and what they were, like with the swimming mechanic and the atmosphere that they were trying to portray and tell. I think that even back then they nailed, and it sounds like what you're saying is like, I'm going to play it this week. Is that the story is compelling enough that it's worth a go. But like it's an interesting dynamic of can a game, like you said, be a chill, relaxing time, like do you see yourself going back and playing this at all?
Yeah, actually I do. Okay. It does have a platinum trophy, and it's really attainable because you'll get one for just the story missions, but also just scanning all the fish. And because it is relaxing to just swim around the world, I can totally see myself doing that and using the excuse of cleaning up the trophies as a reason to do that. Oh,
that's great. I mean, because that's where you talk about value all the time. Like, oh, this game costs this much money, but it's only going to be like 4 hours of your time, and then you're done. Yeah. It is
$20 on Steam.
Okay.
So it's not too bad, and that's just 4 hours of me playing a story. I haven't completed everything. There's, I think, still a couple videos I need to unlock. And there's a couple videos I haven't watched. So if you really are interested in some of the video content that's in the game, and you also just really like cataloging things, this game has that for you. And definitely with my OCD, like cataloging the fish and making sure I found all of them, and I build out my database is enough to like keep me going even once I saw the credits.
Yeah, it's $20 on PlayStation as well.
Yeah. So overall, really satisfied with this game. So I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5.
Awesome.
And I'm looking forward to getting back in there and playing more of it. Another explosion.
This is how much he liked it. 4.5 has fireworks and car alarms to go with it.
Yep. So that's my review for Beyond Blue. That is available on PS4, PC, and I think Xbox One. And we were provided a review copy from the publisher, which I believe I should say that. And then that is it for playing and watching. I just focused on Disintegration and Beyond Blue, and a little bit of Overwatch here and there. I am watching Sarah play Horizon Zero Dawn, because she was watching the PlayStation 5 reveal event with me, and she saw the trailer for Horizon, and she asked how the first game was, and I was like, I never played it, and she asked if I owned it. So now she's playing it. Yeah, it's like, of course I bought it, and I never played it. That's just what I do. And I got the complete edition, which I didn't even know I had the complete edition, but I do. So
yeah, no, it's definitely. Go ahead.
In between me like reviewing games, I basically just turn to the side and I see Horizon being played. So hey, Horizon's a really cool game. It's a good game to watch. It's
definitely the PS5 announcements have definitely shined some light on. I think this summer is going to be a heavy single player focus for me with Spider-Man and Horizon, and like Detroit Become Human. Like I'm just going to start putting some stuff down on a list and start getting some things done. So
yeah. And I haven't really been watching anything other than Horizon. Started to rewatch The Good Place, and we're about to finish Better Call Saul season 5.
Nice.
But that is it for me.
Yeah, most of my typical TV watching has either been sports or like a lot of network drama shows with my wife, and none of those are happening right now.
Nope, and they probably won't happen for a while because one's recorded.
I'm just gonna say this now: the baseball players unions and the owners, Major League Baseball players and owners, are stupid. They're both stupid, and they sound stupid, and they look stupid.
They both want all the money when they should just be happy with whatever money they can get at this point.
I understand that the Major League Baseball Players Union is a very, very powerful union, but use the power for better. Get your butt back on the field and play baseball.
Hopefully. I mean, as long as it's safe.
Yeah, but I think of all the sports, they're the most socially distant. If they can play baseball in Korea,
I like the idea of just putting them in their Cactus League or their preseason training camp areas. Though Florida and Arizona are not really having a good time COVID-wise right now, so maybe you move them to like the middle of nowhere.
Go build 7 fields in Montana.
Right, there's room.
All right, we're going to jump into the questions. You can send us questions using hashtag AskDigitalDays. You can post them in the Facebook group. You can post them on a Facebook page. You can just tweet them at us directly or just use the hashtag that I just mentioned. So you can send those to us many ways. Also, in Discord, there's an Ask Digital Days channel. So go ahead and post them there too. And we will add them to the show. So we get one from Ben Warren out of the Facebook group. Do you think the community can embrace digital-only consoles?
Yeah. Not right now. I feel like the gaming community in general is not going to have a choice in a couple years. I think more people are going to gravitate towards the disc one just because people like to collect things.
What did your poll show?
It was kind of split. Okay. I did a poll on Twitter and a poll on Facebook. It leaned more towards the disc version. But it was really close. Like the margin wasn't that far apart.
I think it's just going to be a matter of the companies getting with the retailers and figuring it out, and kind of going back to, again, like if you look at my Twitter, going back and forth with Kyle a little bit, like he's like, it's 2020, like this is how this is going to happen, blah 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 blah. Like, yeah, but the retailers aren't going to continue like it. If they're forced to buy a certain ratio of discless versus disc consoles, like there's going to become a point where they push back, and it can't only be Amazon that has this item. Like that's not the way, unless you're going to be able, unless Sony lets you buy it directly from them, which we really haven't seen yet.
They did launch a more advanced PlayStation store earlier this year, which may be the groundwork.
Yeah, I mean, if you can buy it directly from Sony, like or from Microsoft, like I think that's great. But if you're going to give, like Amazon that potential power, like, I think that's a bad idea, because you'll start seeing some price gouging when that happens. When there's not competition, you won't see a price drop as fast. There are so many facets to a digital only system that could cause multiple problems. Like I mentioned earlier, games not going on sale because they don't have to, because this is the only place that you can get it.
Yeah. Okay, so I was completely wrong. So on Twitter, explosions. On Twitter, 86% said they were going with a disk drive. Out of like 28 people. I probably should put the polls for longer. And then Facebook, it was 19 in favor of the disk drive, 9 in favor of the digital one, and then 4 people who are just going to get both regardless. So yeah, people are leaning towards the disk. I think what the ultimate deciding factor is going to be cost.
Yeah. If it's $200 less, they're going to buy the diskless one.
Yes, and it's also going to be what's the ratio Sony puts out there? I doubt it's going to be 50-50. Right. I have a feeling it's going to be like 70-30 in favor of the digital one.
I mean, I'll be curious if it, like, so let's just say it's $100. There's $100 difference. One's $600, one's $500, and you go to the store and you want a PS5 and you've got $600 in your pocket or on your bank account or whatever, and you go to 5 stores and all of them only have the diskless one. Are you gonna cave and buy the diskless one because you want to play your PlayStation 5 this weekend, or are you gonna wait and buy the disc version one when you hopefully find one when it's a 1-to-10 ratio?
Yeah, and people are holding hope that the backwards compatibility is going to be their driving force of getting the disc version, but we don't even know what the backwards compatibility stuff is at this point. Unless they have some weird authentication to where you plug the hard drive into your PS4 and then it transfers the disk data into the PS4 and then you plug it into your PS5 and then you can play a digital copy, since they all maybe it'll be like that upgrade system where you have to like put the disc in your PS4 and your PS5's networking capability will read that the disc is there and let you play it. Oh god, yeah. They just come out with like a horrible app for that. Yeah, so like there's an extra port on the back of the PS5 for you to connect it to your PS4 via Ethernet cable. Yeah, just plug Ethernet to Ethernet to confirm your game. And then blow your wall outlet by having your PS5 and PS4 plugged into the same wall. With your 4K with your HDR TV. Yeah. And your surround sound system or whatever. Yeah, so Ben, I have a feeling it's going to be a slow adaptation to the digital only one, but it's going to come down to cost and supply. Like cost difference and how much Sony actually supplies of the disc one. But digital's coming, guys. It's coming. All right, next question comes from Stefan Wren. I'm calling it now. The devs are going to prefer to develop for PS5 compared to Xbox. What do you guys think? I think that all 3 things are going to be very close. PC, Series X, and PlayStation 5. And I think it's going to be better for games to be developed. And it's not going to be a matter of, oh, this runs better on this system and this runs better on that system. Only if the games need to be developed for next gen, though, which we're not going to really see that benefit for a little while, other than Sony stuff. I think out of necessity, developers are going to prefer to develop for the Xbox One as their primary. Series X or One? Series X, sorry. Series X. I'm going to make this mistake so many times over the next couple of years. The reason I think developers are going to favor the Series X is because it's easier to scale down to the PS5 in terms of the raw horsepower. And I think the SSD thing is a big factor. Like the way the PS5's SSD works is it's significantly faster than what's on PC right now, unless you have the money for like the hardware. And it's not possible on the Xbox One with how they're handling data. And if Cerny's thing was right about it fundamentally changing game design, third-party games can't fundamentally change their game design to take advantage of the PS5 because then they can't run it on the Xbox and they can't run it on PC, which has 1,000 different variables of hardware, which is why we'll see developers maybe doing exclusives with it. But in terms of like ports, I have a feeling Xbox is going to be the lead platform for like porting games. But then they'll just load faster on these systems. Yes. and they'll just use the raw horsepower of Xbox Series X as like the starting point, and then downscale to the PS4, PS5. Even though they don't have to really downscale too much for the PS5, but they still just a little bit. But because of the SSD, it's going to be like a blessing and a curse for the PlayStation, I think.
Well, it's like it's for the most part, it's almost how all PC only games are developed. Is they develop it thinking that you have the highest grade of hardware, and then your graphics card and your RAM dictate how the game's going to run for you.
Yeah, and they see how low they can get it, and then they set a minimum for how low it goes, and then if you're lower than that, then you just can't play the game.
Right.
Like that's how PC gaming works, and I have a feeling that's how third-party development will work, unless developers are more attracted to what they can do with PlayStation's SSD.
And then I guess the only thing you'd see is that you'd see it function better in terms of loads and animations on PS5, and then you'd probably see some maybe potentially longer load times on PC and Series X because it's not built around that hard drive. And that's just a guess, yeah.
But it'll probably run 4K 120 frames, and then PS5 load faster.
What I hope we don't see is a comparison video on YouTube of load times.
We probably will the first 6 months just to see.
I'm going to buy Red Dead Redemption 3 because it loads 3.75 seconds faster on my PS5 than it does my Xbox One.
Listen,
Series
Horizon
X.
takes a while to load each time, so I could totally see me doing that jump.
Do you want to talk about load times? Destiny's load time on console are unbearable.
But you can move the ship while you're loading.
No, you can't.
Oh, I thought you could in Destiny 1, right?
No, you can't. You probably thought you could, but you can't.
Oh, okay. I thought you could. Oh.
You could just buy a really cool ship from the store to look at it for a really long time.
Oh, really? No.
Yes.
Oh God, have you?
Have I bought a ship? No, I've earned my stuff. Okay. I've never bought one. Okay. I buy emotes and clothing. No, I'm just playing.
Like I earned it with my day job. That I used to.
No, I've been tempted to give them some money just because, for the most part, like a lot of I was granted privileges from Bungie for a long time, but we'll see how it goes. That's beside the point.
Yeah.
All right. Robert Cartwright, do you think the price for games via the online store will drop in price and be comparable to the retail stores, i.e. AAA PS4 game, $59.9? Is that pounds or euros?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Euros?
Yeah. It sounds like he's saying that in overseas, it's $59.99 on the PS4 store, and Amazon and the game and the supermarkets, I want to know what supermarkets sell video games, is $49.99, which is fascinating to me because that's not the case in the States.
Yeah, we have to pay $59 digitally and in store unless there is a sale, but there's sales frequent enough in the stores, but because there's sometimes you can get an EA game or Ubisoft game $20 off 2 weeks after the game comes out.
Correct.
But they never set that price at that. It's only like a sale for a week, and then it'll go on sale on and off every other week until it's no longer in the store.
Yeah.
So my answer to this is no, because these games are going to be more expensive to make theoretically, so they're going to keep that price at a minimum as long as they can. To Dave's point earlier, they could be more aggressive with sales prices if they want.
Or they could not be, because they go, oh, we've got, I don't even know, 47% of our consoles are digital list. Why do we need to put anything on sale? Where else are they going to buy the game from?
Yeah. And it's not like on PC where Steam has to compete with Epic now, so there's like a competition. There's no competition on the PlayStation Store or the Xbox Store. So I can see if that's a normal
especially
case,
with Sony eliminating buying codes directly for their games.
Yeah. If that is how like the market works in Europe, I can see European players getting very pissed with an all digital future, and I can understand why they would be hesitant to jump into all digital future as opposed to North America, where we just kind of have to rely on game sales to buy physical copies.
But I also wonder if the stores in Europe are purposely doing that to undercut digital sales. Yeah. Which because $10 is a lot.
$10 is a lot, and they're taking it from their end. They're not taking $10.
Yeah.
$10 off for Sony's end. They're
But if
taking
I'm going to
$10
buy
off
Last
their
of Us 2 and I can buy it digitally for $60 or I can buy it physically for $50, like I'll probably buy it physically for $50 because I'm saving $10.
Yeah, which I wish we had that system.
Yes.
Because I would buy more games day one physically if it was because now like Last of Us comes out this Friday. We didn't get a review copy, but I'm gonna buy it digitally because it's the same price in store. But if it was $10 cheaper in store, I would definitely go to the store and pick it up.
And see, like I could have bought it digitally and I would have been able to play it. My son would have been able to play it on his PS4 digitally, but I bought it physically because I wanted to. And I think I'm actually going to play this game upstairs instead of down in my office because I don't really, like I said, plan to stream it. But it also means that I can lend it to somebody if I want to. Like, hey, you really need to check this out. You know?
Yeah. Next question. Last question.
Yeah, Marvin Pinswan. I know how to say that name because I've known him for a long, long time. So.
Oh, okay.
What do you think about blurring the lines between PC and console? And that new game, the only game I can think that he might be talking about is Modern Warfare.
Okay.
Maybe, I don't know, that has crossplay between PC and consoles. Unless there was one shown recently that I missed. Like, I don't know if Godfall is going to have crossplay between PC and PlayStation.
Maybe, I think it might.
So in terms, like, I love it. I can't wait to be able to, you know, like I haven't taken advantage of it, but again, like a lot of people that I know have been furloughed and they've been playing Call of Duty, and like the conversation around it doesn't matter what platform you're on has been fascinating. And you know, to add somebody as an Activision friend, I haven't really taken, like I said, I haven't taken full advantage of that yet. But the day that I can play Destiny with anybody that I want, regardless of their platform, is a day that I look forward to. Or, you know, like is me being more comfortable on PC, or you know, versus somebody that, you know, doesn't have a PC. Like I can't wait.
Yeah, no, I love blurring the lines, just because I can play with more people, and a lot of my friends that I work with play on PC, so I like everything just blurring. And I'm also just happy just because there's so many times where I buy a game and the player base just isn't there because for whatever reason it's more popular on PC, or it's more popular on Xbox, more popular on PlayStation. And now with crossplay becoming more of a normal thing and those lines being blurred, it just means there's a better chance that like a video game can find an audience for its multiplayer because everyone's in the same pool. And then technology wise, like the Xbox Series X and the PS5 and PC hardware being similar enough means we'll get less chance of there just being a shitty port, which we dealt with a lot during the PS3 era where PS3 copies of games or versions of games were just shit. Like they were just really bad. And up until the Xbox One X, a lot of Xbox ports were just bad and were shitty compared to the PS4 version. And then sometimes PCs would just get screwed over in terms of their quality. It would be all over the place. So now with the lines being blurred, developers and publishers have to focus on putting quality content for each console, which I'm happy about, especially as someone who plays on a bunch of different platforms. If only Nintendo can get their shit together and we can get some quality ports for the Switch. I need a Switch too, because I saw so many like announcements of like this game's coming to the Switch, and then I would watch the gameplay footage of that game running on the Switch, and I'm just like, this was a mistake.
Yeah, like Outer Worlds, I heard just runs like trash.
Yes, they did whatever they could to get Outer Worlds on that platform, and it just looks bad. And then
it sounds like Borderlands is running like Borderlands Vita.
Yeah, or less so in some cases. Like they just announced a game I'm looking forward to, Skater XL. They just announced the Switch version of the game, and they did IGN did a live stream with the developers showing off the Switch version of the game, and it just looked bad. And then I felt bad for the developers and the host because they were doing it live, and the chat is just tearing the game apart. Of this game looks like shit, and it's just like no. This version looks like shit. It looks really nice on a PS4, Xbox, and PC. This version just looks bad. And there's probably enough people that saw it on the Switch not knowing it's coming to the other platforms.
Yeah, like I'm out.
Yeah, they're out. They're not even gonna look at the game again.
Yep.
So I just wish the Switch, Nintendo would just like. I almost would like a Switch too. Dave doesn't want to hear that though because he just bought his Switch.
Nah, it's fine.
Yeah, there you have like years of games to still catch up on.
I can't even get my heart back into Zelda for whatever reason.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm glad the lines are blurring between PC and console. Save the Switch.
All right, so you guys can send us those questions using hashtag AskDigitalDays. We'd love to hear your thoughts on PS5. We'd love to hear your thoughts on EA Play. We'd love to hear your thoughts on anything that you want us to talk about, or you want to send us something. That's great. We'll read it. We'll look at it. We'll see if it's more likely to be added to the show. Our spotlights. So mine is obviously, as you're listening to this on your podcast feed, there's a Destiny 2 podcast. Chandler and I had a great time going all the way back to vanilla Destiny 1, talking about it, going through some beats. If that's something that you guys enjoyed, please let us know. Maybe it's something Chandler and I will do like once a season, once every, or every other month. I don't know. But Chandler seemed to have a really good time, and I had a good time. And it's the first time I got to talk to Chandler in like a long time. So it was actually a lot of fun.
Usually when I talk to Chandler, it's like 10 minutes at an event, and that's it.
So that was a lot of fun. And your spotlight?
The Guerrilla Collective, we talked about it earlier. It's 3 days worth of streams, and there is a bunch of cool stuff that was in there. On Twitter and Facebook, I did like my top 5 from day 1. I'll try and do a top 5 for day 2 and 3, but there's a lot of stuff to go through. And I want the Guerrilla Collective to be successful because I want more opportunities for indie developers to spotlight their games. So check out the Guerrilla Collective. And there might be something in there you'll like. I'm sure there's a couple games that I saw that I was like, oh, Dave would probably like this, but I should probably link Dave to that because I know he's not going to sit through 6 hours.
Yeah, please do
other
that.
Trailers.
So you can follow us on the social medias, Twitter at Digital Days. On Twitter at Digital Days Pod. Michael's is at the first MJC 1ST. Mine is at Good Dave Hunt. Please join the Facebook group. There's a link in the show notes. Please join our Discord channel. There's a link in the show notes. And then also our Patreon is linked in the show notes as well. $1 tip jar, $3 Discord exclusive channel access. $5 is 24-hour early access to the regular weekly show. If you noticed, we didn't put the PS5 behind it, and the Destiny 1 won't be behind it either. And $7 is the monthly bonus episode. We will be recording our June or July one soon. May and June are both out. The July one will most likely be our origin stories for getting into the gaming industry, podcasting, and writing. And my wife brought up a good suggestion. We probably need to do a food one for August.
Food would be fun. Yeah.
You guys can hear about the weird food habits that Michael has, and he's got some weird ones.
Completely normal. Nah, completely normal.
But the Patreon support has been amazing over the last couple of weeks. You guys are awesome. It's always kind of cool when that little icon shows up on my phone. It's almost like little butterflies, or we get the email. So it's always great. Somebody sent a message and it fooled me for a second. I was like, oh, it's an email. Oh, awesome to hear from him. Thank you. But it's just most of the time Patreon notifications usually means support, but the messages are also great. So please don't stop doing that. That's also a way that you can, if you're a Patreon supporter, that's a direct way that you can see us, that I can promise you that we will both see because we pay attention to Patreon.
Yeah, we both get email notifications every time. So.
But again, please do not feel obligated to support us on Patreon if you can't afford to. Please only do it as an additional way to support us. And again, any other suggestions you want to see, changes to Patreon, changes to what we're doing, how we do things, please let us know. There are certain things that your support has been able to help with. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you'll start eventually next week, as we post videos, the impression reviews and stuff for games. You'll see a new Stinger transition that we were able to purchase. For those of you that don't know what that is, a little really cool graphic at the beginning, at the end of the videos, and then the starting soon screen on our Twitch streams also was paid for by the community. So that's your guys' screen. So thank you guys so much for the support, whether it's Twitch, Patreon, or just sharing. It's always helpful.
Yep. So looking forward to doing more Patreon bonus episodes because I got a couple ideas for us to do. And as that grows, we'll expand into including more bonus episodes for. Yeah.
We haven't figured it out yet, but we're going to put a stretch goal in there. If we get enough of y'all to do it, maybe we'll do 2 a month.
Yeah, but we're still pretty young in this podcasting Patreon game, so we're always open to ideas and pretty flexible because the numbers are at a good enough spot that if we change things up, it isn't like a drastic thing.
Yep. All right. I hope everyone has a good week. Wash your hands, wear a mask, and keep moving forward.
Don't be a dick. See ya.